Visit the independent Utah Railway, the long-gone Alco fleet of the Utah Railway, and the Rio Grande Zephyr are just some of the vintage views we'll see. Let's head for the 80-mile section south of the Great Salt Lake from Provo to Price, Utah in the Wasatch Mountain Range. The old Denver and Rio Grande main line west to Salt Lake City runs through the Wasatch Mountain Range, reaching a peak of over 7,000 feet at Soldier Summit, with westbound trains experiencing a 2.4% grade between Castle Gate and Cayune. Despite the demise of SP and the Rio Grande, the scene here continues to offer great appeal to rail fans looking for heavy trains, helper operations, and visual variety. Much of the line between Spanish Fork and beyond Price, Utah to the east is parallel to Route 6, which is essentially unpopulated for long stretches. The emphasis here has always been coal. The abundant low-sulfur coal found in the territory here has helped to generate an endless stream of traffic from a succession of early to present-day mines. The independent Utah Railway, based in Martin, Utah, has been a part of the scene since 1912, and their long coal trains have operated side by side with the Denver and Rio Grande trains on the line over Soldier Summit. This was the ongoing picture through the decades, with the Denver and Rio Grande experiencing booms, busts, receiverships, war traffic, and finally a stabilized degree of success as a bridge carrier that was most apparent when the Rio Grande bought the larger but weakened Southern Pacific system in 1988. Since 1980, the railroad industry in the West has undergone several upheavals that have caused an ever-changing picture. The December 1983 Southern Pacific and Santa Fe merger, known as the SPSF, was put into effect after the Union Pacific was greatly strengthened by absorbing the Missouri Pacific and the Western Pacific earlier in 1980. The Interstate Commerce Commission, however, finally disallowed the SPSF merger in 1986, and it left the SP greatly weakened and twisting in the wind, so to speak. The Union Pacific's Western Pacific and Missouri Pacific 1980 merger also put Rio Grande's end connections into the hands of its rival, the Union Pacific. As a result, the Denver and Rio Grande bought the SP in October 1988. Surprising to some, and presumably for marketing reasons, the SP's colors started to replace the Rio Grande's business-like black and orange colors. The Rio Grande's units were gradually being not only repainted with SP colors, but they were becoming scattered across the combined system. In September 1996, the Union Pacific bought the combined SP Rio Grande system, and it was SP's colors that would next be gradually replaced with the yellow of the huge Union Pacific. It's a widely held opinion that the tidy Union Pacific dislikes the practice of using helpers, and the closing of system segments such as the SP's old Modoc line and the tough Tennessee Pass added weight to this idea. Unfortunately, the spectacle of huge helper sets like this have been replaced with operational silence in what was once America's highest operating main line. The fact that the Tennessee Pass added little to the traffic flow was probably the additional motivation for rerouting traffic off that line. The Union Pacific as a system had too many other options to justify the expense and upkeep of the ex-Denver and Rio Grande Tennessee Pass line. But the old DNRG mainline to Provo, Utah has a key reason to maintain the status quo. The Independent Utah Railway built a portion of the track, and it retains trackage rights over other portions from an agreement that dates to 1913. The recent Union Pacific ownership of the line has also brought trackage rights concessions for the BNSF system to help give Utah a degree of competition and forestall any complaints of a monopolistic climate that would affect shippers. Without those trackage rights, Utah would have only one large railroad to serve it, where it once had four. Previous roads serving Salt Lake City were SP, Western Pacific, and the Rio Grande, all portions of the UP system now. Adding to the remixing of things, the Burlington Northern Santa Fe, or BNSF, uses the Utah Railway to switch their customers and block freight trains for them in the Midvale Yard, just north of Provo. So a lot has been added to the scenery, replacing what has been lost, and the action in the region is just as interesting as ever. Union Pacific's yellow and gray seem to be replacing SP and the Rio Grande power on freight trains here. But it's still possible to see lots of old SP units for a while longer. The Utah Railway and trackage rights trains boost the variety factor up several more notches, and they'll be around for some time to come. All this makes a present-day trip here worth the effort. But lately, an interesting thing has happened. Unexpectedly, this evolved scene has seen many of the old Rio Grande locomotives, still wearing black and orange paint, return to the Wasatch Mountains and become the basis of the helper operations at Helper, Utah. This started in 1998, and the yard at Helper is usually full of prowling Rio Grande units, stationed there to loft westbound trains over the 2.4% grades. Quite often, the scene here belies the series of mergers that dragged through the last 13 years. This can't last forever, and any locomotive not conforming to UP's yellow and gray paint scheme will inevitably be sold or repainted as its age and suitability dictate. but Rio Grande fans can enjoy it while it lasts as a reflection of a distant and better time for those who prefer black locomotives with orange stripes. The town of Helper stopped being a Rio Grande crew change point years ago, and the town has slowly been adjusting its emphasis to tourism with renovated shops and museums. Railroads or not, it's still a pleasant place with great scenery and nearby national forests. Mining, too, played a role in the town's past, and the marks of this are still present, complete with a mining and railroad museum that occupies an old railroad hotel and surrounding area with its exhibits. It's good to see a reprieve for all the Rio Grande units collected here, where as many as 18 may be in the area. They're used in helper service as well as work train and any locals that may be needed. One such local is the well-known LUH-45, or Dirty Dirt train. This train always has Rio Grande power to take the train from Roper Yard through Helper and then 23 more miles out to the Sunnyside branch. The loads are low-level radioactive dirt that's disposed of at the end of the branch line with grades over 3%, calling for plenty of well-maintained tractive effort. All the locomotives here have the traction control upgrades to make them well-suited for mountain railroading. Today's outing is on a bleak January morning with the temperature barely in the teens. This train runs to a predictable schedule, and it races down the main track eastward to the branch line track that veers compass northeast for 17 miles to Sunnyside. One last look finds the train on the branch line still making decent time considering the 3+% grade and the 60 loaded cars.